Uh, little better. Little better, y'all. Well, welcome to tonight. Welcome to the Chocolate Mountain Show. We are in the. Uh, I'm located in the Pimp Palace, as you can see, bringing good tides. Oh, bringing good tides to all that come and join tonight. Because we don't mourn, we enjoy the night. But this is the Chocolate Mountain Show. I'm your host, Big Pontiac. Welcome. I'm the holder of the infinite sacred ball game created by the Hero Twins. And I'm also your one and only Galactic Daddy-O. Welcome each and every one of the Chocolate Mountaineers to my galactic patio that reaches from Minnesota to the universe. And tonight's special drink again is the Rumbuas, which is again by Michigan's very own, Grand Rapids, Michigan's very own Founders, which is a raspberry type of ale. So pop them if you got them. And this was a waste of money. This was a waste of money. The total amount was 50 milligrams again. You know, I hear 50. I'm thinking each one. No, each one is 5 milligrams. So there's 10 in here. Very low doses. You could take you could take all 10 and be a little buzzed. I mean, so don't get these kind. They ain't got that much in them. It's still 5%, but you're gonna need 2 bottles to kind of keep it going. Not worth it. So smoke them if you want them. Not a lot going on in the world today. We're supposed to have a powwow down here at the casino. We'll see if we go tomorrow. Tomorrow we might also go to the world's biggest candy factory. So that's not far from us. So we might do that. Oh, sorry. So we might be doing that. I'll tell you, my son. Hey, brother PJ, how you doing, man? I still don't remember what I had to ask you. Hey, there's that bad man, CO. But thank you for joining, bro. How you been, man? How's things up in New York? What's the gas like up in New York? Here, the cheapest it is around the corner from the Pimp Palace is $3.77. Everywhere else is still $3.99, $3.94. And even though we closed today, it was $90 a barrel. I'll tell you what, if you guys are in Bitcoin, what was it, $2,000 drop today from 23 to 21. Ethereum dropped. Yeah, I still see a trip up there. Oh, bet. I talked to my son today. It looks like we're still going to see the Packers on the 11th. So New York City is nuts, but gas is $4.49. Okay. Wow. So the futures up there is a little different. I wonder what, because like up here we have a refinery in St. Paul. We have a major refinery. Like the way it goes from us, if I understand this right, you know, Chicago is a hub of refineries. I don't know if people realize that. If you're coming from the east going into Chicago, like going into Calumet, and then, you know, coming into Chicago from the east, as you approach Lake Michigan, you know, coming through Calumet on 94, and as you approach Lake Michigan, you start smelling. That's my earliest thoughts of Chicago was always smelling oil. And as you go through Calumet and you approach West Michigan, first there's a natural gas station, and then there's other refineries. So we don't depend on the Chicago refineries because we have a major refinery in St. Paul here. So that is still fairly high comparatively. But 377 is about the cheapest. Michigan, I think my brother said that Michigan was quite down to what 340, 350, I think he said. So still expensive, still a bill. Even at 377 is still a bill. It should be, you know, no pumping on Trump, but it was, and gas would have went up regardless if Trump would have won. You know, I talked about that last night because again, gas goes on futures. That's why you can see the price right now. You can see what they're setting up in November. I mean, every time Obama ran, the price of oil always dropped. But again, it's a futures market, so it's not actually the price that's trading at. People was pushing that around Facebook, saying a year ago at the price, but they don't. You have to understand that it's it's the month going forward, and not necessarily. Man 23 dropped today. Oh, okay, okay, Ricky Smooth. Thanks for joining me. I am convinced outside of crime, New York City will be hit but won't suffer, be smaller cities and towns. I am convinced outside of crime, New York will be hit but won't suffer like smaller cities and towns. Well, there's been movies, New York is always, it usually goes New York, D.C. in the movies. They hit D.C. and then they hit New York. The problem that they're going to run into if Dan play, I'm gonna tell you the problem they're going to run into and what might save New York is the gold is in New York. Like the gold ain't in Fort Knox. All the gold is in New York now. I know. God, what was the guy's name? It was the guy talking about going over Goldfinger and stuff. But all the gold, the major hoards of gold is in New York City. Remember when they hit 9/11? There was a lot of gold in that building, and they got that gold up out of there. No one touched all that stuff, and they got that gold out of there. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was a major treasury in the World Trade Center. They got all the gold out of that. So if they get it, outside of crime, New York will be hit but won't suffer like smaller cities. So maybe because of the gold, they got that. Remember, they got that system where they call it you remember Ronald Reagan called it Star Wars, where they gave Israel that system. They want it over in Ukraine. They want that Star Wars system that sends them missiles up and blocks missiles from coming in. They got that kind of stuff. So the black trucks in the area the night before. Wow. Okay. Wow. Hey, there's my brother. What are you doing up so late? I know it's late for you, but thank you, Quian Redface. That is my younger brother. Badon Play, thank you for joining me. The black trucks in the area the night before. Wow. Okay. Wow. But I mean, you guys are suffering a lot of the crime that a lot of the places are suffering from. It was a little bit here. Here it's they've got feds here because of the crime. They're going after the switches, the people that have the switches, and switches are fairly cheap. You can 3D print switches now, which is definitely the military wants. They're calling automatic pistols machine guns. That's what the guy had. He had a press conference today, and he's like, "We're going to take drugs and machine guns off the market." That's what they said. Drugs and machine guns. Pistol ain't a machine gun. A pistol only has a range of what? 60, 70 yards? It ain't like a rifle that might be able to shoot you a mile away. Not like that. And remember, the world record for a rifle is 4 miles. A guy shot well, again, you can go into Iraq and they got records of how of people that have killed people from the furthest away. You get a little bit of that in American Sniper. You get a little bit of guys having those long shots. But American Sniper, remember that part where he sounded like a punk? Oh, thank you, Divine Networking. That is so kind of you. Thank you for joining. But you remember that he was ready to come home when they were shooting at his ass. His ass was ready to come home. I'm ready to come home now, baby. It was like that pepper was put on him. They were shooting all around him. And they shoot all around. He's on this phone like, I'm ready to finally come home. Okay. So when you was just sitting there shooting a mug from, 800 yards away, you didn't want to come home then. But now that heat's on you, you want to come home. So remember that part of American Sniper? But yeah. I know Jeffrey was asking. I finally started watching Prey. Oh, let me say Day Shift. This is something my girl caught. She said that when we were watching Day Shift with Jamie Foxx, the little girl looks almost 2 years older in the beginning of the movie. She's like almost 2 years older. And what's interesting is when they do a picture in the beginning, the picture is of her younger. She's younger in the picture, and that's how she is. So it's almost like they stopped shooting. I don't know if it was COVID, because one guy spits gum into the other guy's face. I don't know if this was, they started filming this movie before COVID. I don't know, but the girl appears quite older in the beginning of the movie than she does at the end. She almost goes back in age. It appears like almost 2 years. So if y'all caught that. But I watched a little bit of Prey. We watched all but 20 minutes. The white face, though, the white split face, you know, the stripe shows you're a hunter, but the white split face shows you that, you know, the Indians is really, the natives is really white, is what you're seeing. That's why you see the white on this side, the native on this side. It's telling you that, yeah, they used to be like this, but now they like this. That's interesting that they put that in people's face. But it was good seeing them Europeans getting wiped out by the Predator. We need Predators. Where was Predators when we needed them? Why wasn't the Predator here when they first came? I say if we go back in history, we bring the Predators on our side, and when these Europeans come, the Predators, go get them, Predators. Got a little bit of again, going back to the Jamie Foxx movie, juveniles can't revitalize their organs, which was interesting. And then the names that they came up with, the different terms of vampires. And remember, some old tales talk about the first vampire actually being Judas. After Judas was apparently hung, he started the line of vampires. Remember, a couple shows kind of show that's where some of the vampires come from. So. But yeah, Prey was tearing their ass up. Prey, he was tearing the French up. He was tearing their ass up. French was cooler towards people than the British. And that's what Pontiac's flaw was. And even Tecumseh, they both didn't understand that the British and the Americans was one and the same. They was one and the same. They didn't understand that. The British didn't give up anything. The British did not lose the Revolutionary War. I mean, I've talked about this before. We still pay the Queen money. Look that up. We still pay the Queen money. Why does the Queen get American tax money? I saw a video sometime back where a dude said the Predators are melanated. They kind of look like it, especially if you go, you know, they got the dreads and stuff. They've got the dreads. And the original Predator was married to that chick named Rose that used to play on 227, the actor that died. The original Predator dude, he was married to the chick from 227. Those of you old enough to remember that show. Her name was Rose, but she was once married to that Predator. He was 7 foot, I think. I think the original Predator was 7 foot, if I remember right. But that's who we needed back then. We needed them. But I want to ask y'all, what do you guys think? Now, they showed an old clip of Farrakhan where Farrakhan said, the Jewish faith people never want you to forget about the Holocaust. Matter of fact, we've given taxpayer money to Holocaust victims. Nobody from Reconstruction, but Holocaust victims. But the point of it is, never forget. That's what the Jewish faith people say, never forget. Because if you forget, it might be repeated. Well, what about what happened during Reconstruction to us? As I said last night, it's pretty much proof that we fought, that melanated people fought against the Northerners from the very beginning. First Bull Run, first Manassas. There's records of people testifying or just telling what they experienced. We have that. So, barrister beholding to England. There you go. There you go. There we go. Yeah, they were never separated. It was a land steal. There's like, okay, you go up into Canada, because if you had an enemy, you ain't going to let the enemy be on the continent. You're going to fight them all the way through Canada. As a matter of fact, they could have choked off their lanes. How was they going to get resupplied in Canada? If they'd have blockaded Canada, they would have had to keep going north and north and north to try to, get out of the blockade. But all they had to do is blockade Canada. And it really was Toronto. You blockade some of them seaports and stop them, but no. And then they gave them the islands. Make that make sense. They gave them the islands. So, no. We are one and the same. It's like, but I wanted to ask everybody this. See, they don't want to feel, they think if they've been shamed long enough for the murderous ways of the Europeans, they think it's enough, long enough. We don't want the future generations to know how murderous the people were. And no one should feel bad for Reconstruction, not slavery, Reconstruction. Because the real slavery went from 1870 to damn near 1964, 1965. That was real slavery in America, was from that period, not before. That's why they lied to you about before, because they don't want to admit what went on in Reconstruction. Because slavery sounds better. Well, we snatched some people from Africa, and they worked and they sang songs, and we're just so happy to be here. Now, saying that some of the first people you slaughtered and you slaved, and other Indians helped, not realizing that hurting me is also hurting you in the long run. Long run is another parody spell, but I heard another parody spell, I forget, but so that's, what do you guys think? Do you think that history should be forgotten? That's their point. They say we've been shamed enough, we've been talked about it, we don't want it talked about anymore. Where a lot of people are saying, no, you guys not only should admit it, the only way it's going to make it even is start cutting these dollars out. And then a lot of people say, well, that's socialism. Yeah. Hey, there's Lorenzo. What's happening about the Reconstruction era? The more and more I study that era, the more I see your view on that being the worst era for us. Oh, absolutely. It ain't slavery. They don't want to tell you about Reconstruction. Slavery, you could work with who you wanted to work with. There were free people that would go on to the plantations and start working on the plantation. Free people that would work on the plantation. And if they didn't like them, they could go work on another plantation. But when Reconstruction came in, I mean, they put hundreds of thousands of young men and boys. You see prison boys. There's pictures of prison boys during Reconstruction, where you see a picture and it's all the boys in jail. And again, they's locking you up for vagrancy. 90 days, vagrancy, you got to go work for free. That is what they should pay us for, because we know those names. We know those names. I got books, and we know their names. We can go to South Carolina, the Broom Handle Bill. These family names still exist that caused harm to melanated people. And we need the receipts of some of these weapons that these poor white trash were given in Wilmington. All of them got them Henrys. And Wilmington is interesting because if you study when they overthrew an elected government and the feds did nothing about it, but it was a poor region of North Carolina that all these men got these expensive guns they couldn't afford. So if you look at Wilmington, just look at the picture. They should be trying to rewrite history. They owe us. That's what they want to do. They want to rewrite history, and they want to make them not seem like such bad guys. They don't even want Columbus to look like a bad guy. Like here, the casino people, the casino Indians, I guess that's what we're going to call them. The casino Indians tried to tear down the Columbus statue here. And they arrested the people for trying to tear it down. But again, it ain't even his name. Christopher Columbus was not even his name. The book, one of my books got the real person's name. It wasn't Christopher Columbus, it's a different name. And again, the person with the name was a Jewish faith person out of Portugal. Because there's two characters they use. Matter of fact, if you look at the Time Walking Papers, the Time Walking Papers say that the first Christopher Columbus would have been St. Patrick when he killed the Twa in Ireland. That Christopher Columbus was actually a title. And that's what kind of Meredith Quinn shares. So that's something to consider. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's erasing what they've done. So they say that we shouldn't feel negative about them. Christopher Colon. No, it's actually almost, the word is almost his first name, and I don't have that book here, but his first name is more like Castole. It's more like Castole Colon. But even Cologne is kind of mixed because that's a city outside of Geneva. So even that, but it's like because it's not Christopher. It would be Cristol. It's like Cristol or something like that. But yeah, but Cologne. But yeah, but Cristol, something like that. And one of the books I have at home has that name, has the exact name. But he was a Jewish faith person. But as you know, they keep moving his body around. It ain't where it was, and they keep trying to say he's Italian. But that was brought up by the Italians because Italians was looked at gangsters. So that was actually probably created in the 40s or 50s. And I know some friends on Facebook, really get caught up with that flat Earth round, flat plane. It ain't really a flat Earth. It's a flat plane. Flat plane, round plane. And how flat plane was taught in schools. They do teach you. They said the beginning of history or European history, the Europeans thought it was a flat plane. But because of the adventures of these outgoing navigators, we showed that it wasn't. I say it don't matter. No, let me back that up. Your belief can really define which one you live in. It really can. If you believe you live in a flat plane, like my friend, and I'm gonna have her on, Danita, I'm gonna have her on and let her explain her position on it. But you start to live in that. I mean, you really do. And you don't think you can communicate or have a relationship with a person that lives in the flat plane, but you say you don't. Now, as I said, astro moving through this space-time, it does appear like the thing is more footballish, whatever it is. It's not a perfectly thing. Even what's interesting, it's hard to see the planets because they're so big that you really can't understand them, because a planet like Saturn and Jupiter, we're so small that we would damn near be dust. But even those, there's something else there besides what we see. This seems perfectly round or glary if you look at your eyes. So, Doug Huber, how you doing? You're European and you hate European people. I love your show. Well, thank you, Doug. That is so nice of you. Thank you. You live in over north, as they call it. Isn't that funny? They call it over north. They don't call it north side. It's like, well, where do you live? I live over north. Well, we're about to go over north. Yeah. Well, thank you. I feel like I have neighbors that I love to call you. I love if you. I'm not taking calls tonight, but you can always email me. It's easy to email me. EagleRTheBomb@gmail.com. So you can always email me. Yep. So not tonight. Maybe I get my talk shoe back up and do it. It's a projection of Hollow Earth theory. I think it's a projection like Hollow Earth theory. Yeah, that is a kind of. However, the Hollow Earth has, because there are myths, very old myths that talk about it being a sun inside the planet too. That's the sun that really keeps us alive. It's not the projection outside of us, actually the one inside. We know it's crystallized. So it's a crystallized type of sun in the middle of the planet. And then there's an ocean around that. And they can't penetrate that at this point. Godzilla wanted you to think that they can, but right now they didn't even know it was water down there. Remember, if you and I that grew up, they said it was an iron core. It was these different layers, but it was iron core, nothing about water. And then them Russians started drilling, and every time they got so far, water cover them. Water cover them. They drilled farther, water, they pumped the water out, more water would come in. And pretty soon they was like, damn, it'll never go away. So now they have to admit it's ocean there because all the people that worked on it, there's too many eyes saying, yeah, there's more water down there than just the oceans on the sea. It's a lot of water that we can't pump out under us. And they can't, so far, it doesn't appear like. And that's another thing. Where does that fall in the flat plane? Where does the ocean inside of the earth fall in the flat plane? Now, I'm not a great big believer in their science, but some of these things reported seem like possibilities, more possibilities. Distill, like a simulation, because it does reset how we live somewhat. Over north, see, he said it. Over north. Daniel Washington. You know that name? No, I don't know Daniel. I don't know Daniel. I don't know any Washingtons here. No. Daniel Washington's brothers, Detroit. Yeah, I don't know them. I don't know them cats. Yeah, Daniel Washington and his brothers. They from Detroit. I'm actually from Kalamazoo, but I know a lot of people in Detroit. I've been going to Detroit and Chicago since I was a little boy, so I move around both. Still have friends in both. I like both for different reasons. Both have a little for different reasons, but I don't know those brothers. I got a brother named Sean. Well, my best friend Tony is from Saginaw, and we've been friends for 12 years. Well, no. Our children are 16. We've been friends for 14 years because his son had just turned 2 when we met. Yeah. So his son is 16. his son was like 2 when we met. So we've been friends for 14 years. But he has a friend named Sean, and Sean is from Detroit too. Sean's a local artist here. But Sean, like, I know a lot of the Hoopers. I do know the old Globetrotters, Mario Green, Tyrone Dolman, Chris Dolman's brother. Chris used to play with the Vikings. They got in the Hall of Fame. You know, Chris was sacrificed last year before. I don't know if y'all remember that. Chris made the Hall of Fame, and then a year or so later, Chris died. So I know, few brothers. Randall says, your uncle. Well, thank you. That's kind of you, Doug. Thank you for the kind words. My uncle lives in. Your uncle lives in Kalamazoo. Yeah, that's where my sons graduated from. That's where my stepmother, my father, they both graduated from there. Both my brothers, they graduated from there. And my son is going to start working in Kalamazoo now because he just got a job in Kalamazoo. And then my other son is still going to Western Michigan University. So Huber, Doug Huber. Okay, Huber. Yep, Doug Huber. All right. I'll keep note of that, but that's how you can get in touch with me. Because I'd like to sit down and talk to local people and how they look at things that have transpired here. We have, as I said, Danita, I'm going to have her on. And then I just talked to somebody today that was pretty deep. And she said that she'd come on. So yeah. Had this, couldn't get these to work. That's what took me so long. I could not get these to work. This is a good set. This wouldn't work. This ain't no game set. But for some reason, when I went into this, it wasn't the mic. It wasn't picking up the mic. So maybe it was just low. Maybe it's just low. But see, this is how I got this dyslexia. Because I asked the girl, I said, is it 50 milligrams a piece? And the girl says, yes. But really, they're 5 milligrams a piece. This is nothing. 5 milligrams. I could have ate all these in one time. Waste of money. And these was $24. Not worth it. Not worth it. The new laws, see, the old laws technically gave you higher milligrams. Even though it was 0.3, you were still getting 100 milligrams of Delta 8 and THC 9. The best ones was, and they don't sell those anymore. They were Delta 8 and Delta 9 THC. And they was 3-point THC. They seem to take all the strong ones off. And all you're left with is pretty much this kind of thing. Where this is for the other ones, this is one dose. 50 milligrams, that's nothing. 100 milligrams is a regular dose of people. But didn't know, listened to the wrong people. Should have took advice and drove to the other store. I didn't feel like going to the other store and getting the chocolate bars. The chocolate bars are excellent. But yeah, I just been doing my regular thing. You know, play pickleball with some guys. I wasn't playing with great competition, but on the other hand, now this is what's funny. I know P and L would always try to point to this. Is trying to show that this is the reason these are fezzes instead of the sacred helmets. They always want to point to this head. What head is this? Head number 4. They always, and then there's one with a tassel. They always try to say they're fezzes. Well, these are helmets. Never tassel. Never fezzes. These are helmets. Sacred helmets. Nothing to do. Nothing to do with. And this is a very. This is actually a picture of Shalalak, and it's called Statuette Tulaxia. But this would be a lot of times this kind of bill is shown on the shock energy. This picture is probably not that very well known, so I wanted to share that one. And what got it all started? And see, you know they never talk about doing DNA. This is a tomb. My big book has the bodies, shows the skeletons, but this is a tomb. So they found their tombs, but you never talk about DNA with this shit, do you? See, they only use DNA when it favors them. Yes. This is what the first thing I ever found about the omen was right here. Again, this is the very first book written by this cat in French. In the French language, and then later translated in the mid-60s. But this is the very first book ever written about the omen. Now, the article, this is the very first item found. They didn't know what culture this came from when they found this. It's called the Votez axe. Votez axe. It's a Celt, axe, Celt, same thing. And then this is the transition, the werebaby they call it, but the transition. And some other pictures not widely known. As I said before, I never saw omen. We know all the big head statues, they're clean faced and don't have beards. And one day I was looking in my mirror, I have a obsidian crystal mirror, and an omen face came in with a beard. It's like, beard? Never seen an omen with a beard. And sure enough, the next day, one of my books showed this picture. And I know this is not a great reproduction, but you can clearly see he has a beard. And he's a traveler. This picture doesn't show the prints. But again, we have a lot of these glyphs are the same glyphs that the Mayans use. A lot of these glyphs. I've got a better picture of this, but this kind of idea, you can see him with a beard. And they try to destroy a lot of this stuff. There's another monument similar to this where they tried to destroy the face. Oh, them destroying the face. Purposely destroyed the face. So much of it they couldn't cover it. And then again, this is head 1 that they did damage. Head 1 was damaged. You can see where they've had to repair it. All up in here, you can see where they repaired it. You can kind of see the concrete right there. They tried to destroy this. You see even there is a big dash. Hey, Lobo, how you doing, man? Oh, you love to be on the panel? Okay, Doug, I'll have you on one day. Another statue that comes from the omen. And these are called knuckle dusters, used in the sacred ball game. Transformation. And the knuckle dusters. So you see the knuckle dusters were almost like a combination baseball bat and baseball mitts. You'd hit the ball with these, but these are called knuckle dusters. Not familiar with that. That's the term, knuckle dusters. In the transformation, again. Now they call this the dancer. Definitely a melanated person. See that? Definitely a melanated person. So it ain't like it's a little of this stuff. It's a lot of this stuff. I forgot to show you this one, but this is how long ago football helmets are. You see that? I did this years ago. I did a whole thing on the omen in sports. But you see that? That's a modern football helmet and face mask. Is it not? See? That looks like a football helmet with the face mask. I don't know. They might call that picture porn. This is a drawing. Somebody redid it. It doesn't. You can barely see what it really is, but this is a remake of it. So this is an actual. That you can barely see the actual picture, but this is a recreation of that. Now, this is the stuff they tried to destroy. Because when they came and saw the omen stuff, they had arms that could move. You see that? You could move the arms. So more than likely, the Spanish destroyed this statue. This statue had arms that moved. And this was buried. So you know they destroyed it. Articulation. They had statues that you could articulate. And that's an example of it. This is mislabeled the wrestler. And you can actually buy this figure here. You can actually buy it. But this is a ball player. He's sliding on his leg to hit the ball with his leg or his thigh. And as I said, they tried to, as I mentioned before, you see they destroyed the face on this one. This comes from pound. This ain't weather. This is from Europeans pounding on the face trying to destroy it. Because this is a big altar that they were able to break the altar in two. But it's so big they couldn't destroy it all. But you see how the pounding on the face to try to hide the face. And this is just, I have some men very similar, kind of a popular. I think this is in the Museum of Mexico. Kind of just statues. Probably was given to children at some point. Less famous pictures that probably ain't exposed that often. This is on a cave wall. Recreation. Looks like a ruler has passed. They're doing the ceremonies. Lesser known picture. Probably would never ever see it again. I haven't even found this picture on Pinterest. One more I wanted to show. But again, the transformation is big. I saw Brother Edwards come in. See, the transformation is, shown many ways and shapes and forms. So just wanted to share that. I saw the Magbone. Hey, there he is, the Magbone file. What's happening, man? I'm glad you're at work, brother. Glad you're at work. You good? Just chilling? Okay. You see the games today? My friend, she doesn't have NFL Network. I do. But I missed the second game tonight. It's so good. History is just the way it should be told. Michigan football. Oh, definitely go blue. That's why I sent brother Nick. I sent brother Nick a Nike Michigan hat, or the Jordan Team Jordan or Jordan's Nike hat with the Jordan in the back. Because I heard brother Nick say he was a Michigan fan, so I sent him a Michigan hat. And he said he got it. It's like, man, I was hitting it. I was like, man, you didn't get it. But it's not victimism. It's not, I'm not trying to shame anybody. It's none of that. It's none of that at all. And you, now I'm going to show this picture. And as you know, the binary code is a repeating code, but also in the binary code, as it's presented here, is their way of counting. You know, 1 through 20, 13, 20, 13 months, 20 days each month, which is slightly less than 365, or actually it's 368, something like that, I think. But when you look at this as a binary code, you can put you can actually, it's a lot easier to multiply numbers when you use the 5s and you use the 10s compared to using the 1, 2. It's easier to add numbers up the way the Mayan did it and the Omen before them. But as I've showed this picture before, and if you try to understand what you are, or what your soul would look like, because again, if you can't, you know, they can tell you this thing, but if you can't have some kind of fractal idea of what's next. Now, Balmer says something very interesting that I'm going to share. He says he knows what happens to him, what's next. I've been there as well. What's going to happen to me, I have to admit, I've been there. Matter of fact, they've taken me to where I finally rest. And it's 2 places. One is, it appears to be a larger tree than you could ever imagine. They took me into the room. And I've told this story many, many times of living in Brahma's tears, you know, actually having a room, and that's where it was. It was just a single little room in Brahma's tears. But I'm portrayed, I was in a reality where I was actually the Monkey King, and I'm living in Brahma's tears as this Monkey King. But those are 2 places that I've been to, that when it's my time to pass on, I'll be going to both of those places because I've been to both of those places. So, but you have to have a fractional idea of what will propel you and what will take you and what the soul really looks like, as I've showed many times. But however, when you throw the binary in it, which would go into when you were born and all that, you would traverse pretty much with this. Now, this is the form you take. This is the form of the soul. This is the form of the energy known as the soul. And this is how you would transverse through space-time. You would have to create this whole energy field to move through space-time. But this is the basic model of what you would travel with. And so I just want to put that fractal out there, because you're going to have some kind of idea how to move through it. And if you don't have anything to hold on to, you can be stuck. Just go into the light. You know, Boob Whisper is trying to get everybody to go into the light. Just go into the light. And there's so much history that just hasn't been told to us. And there's so much history they can't even explain. As I've showed this many times, these are all the Omen gods. And they don't really know much about them. And some of these come from the Dresden, which is Mayan. So even some of that Mayan stuff, they don't know everything about. And then, of course, we have, what is he, God El? God M. So they couldn't lighten him up. You see how they lighten up all the other characters. But you couldn't lighten him up. So some of this stuff that they can't corrupt it because they haven't cracked it. So it can't be corrupted if they don't crack it. This is the hero twins are also being able to shapeshift. And this is, again, the Monkey King. They were able to transfer themselves. And the name is Han Chin and Han Bots, where both brothers are able to transfer into the Monkey King. And this is the father. Once he was defeated, he grew into a gourd. The Hero Twins' father was defeated by the god, and he was able to skeet on the young goddess. I think they show the skeet. Yeah, they do. See, they show that to him skeeting. See that? He skeeted on her. That's how the Hero Twins were born. It's like, come here, little girl. Skeet, skeet. Gotcha. What is your theory on what happened the last civilization? I don't think many of us came from those bloodlines. As I said before, what really happened in South America was the higher spiritual forms was able to rise up. The LIDAR is trying to bring them down. They're slowly trying to fight that before what's happening here in the disappearing of the European population. And that is why they're letting these people in the border, because they want those to be the new Europeans. That's why they're encouraging the lighter Latinos to come over the border to populate these lands, because the Europeans are disappearing. I mean, the next by 50, we're going to see a complete loss of the European population like never before. You're already seeing it. They're just not having the birth rates. And so as they disappear, and what happens next, it's probably a regeneration of the lands, because the melanated people of the world aren't necessarily bloodsuckers of the land. We are not trying to strip all the resources. Now, I watched one video where they said real ancient civilization did strip a lot of America out of natural resources. It suggested that the Grand Canyon is an example of this, and they showed several other places that it appeared like they were mined, because again, what do they tell you in the Grand Canyon? They tell you water did all that. That's what they try to tell you. Well, this is a claim that, or this was another understanding of, could have been something else. So that's probably, well, that is what happened to the higher civilizations once the Europeans came over. The higher civilizations were able to, again, that's why they were telling them these lost cities of the Z. They were telling them there's something else smarter here that y'all just can't find. That's why, the lost tribe of the Z, they was looking for them that left. The Fountain of Youth was what they had. That's what these stories were. They told you Fountain of Youth. They were trying to find them, and now they're trying to find all these pyramids that are generators that are, help this. So, and they have said they've been negotiating a long time. Atlantis doesn't appear like it appears like just a myth like the rest of this stuff. The only older story would have been Mu and the civilization of just a world of women. That is probably the oldest part of civilization. When it was just women occupied the world, and the world was known as Mu, not Gia, but actually Mu. And then and that's where you get Yaldabaoth. I mean, that's more than likely where the Yaldabaoth story comes from. Yaldabaoth was probably, even though they called him like a lion, he was probably like a male lion. He was something different. That's if you read the Dead Sea Scrolls, again, Mag Harmony Library, when they talk about Yaldabaoth, it could very well be a male they're talking about. Again, we got the Atom, Adam story is something new and something separate. And we know there are civilizations, and there are bugs, hell, roaches, men, female, all can have it. Remember the horses, what is the seahorse male can have the babies, but it does appear like. And Yaldabaoth was probably the first prototype man. Probably was a couple different things, but could have been that very well, and held power from then once created till now. And something Brother Bomber said that's very true. Compared to meditating in the daytime, you feel as you go into the ethers or wherever your level is, you see less. You see less. You see a lot less. Whereas you meditate at night, it is like the example I can give you is when you meditate at night when you're new, you might get this far. It feels like it's this much room for you to meditate in. It's so thick. It took me a while to kind of understand that. What was different about meditating in the daytime compared to at night. But it does seem like this gets a lot thicker at night. And if you look at trying to say that this dimension holds each different kind of loops, again, that's string theory, but different types of branches, again, that's string theory. Very possible that there's a lot of different things going on in the same space. I mean, remember in Men in Black, they opened the drawer up and it was a civilization, a flat, plain civilization in the drawer. Remember that? He opened the drawer up and it was civilization in the drawer. That was flat, plain. So they're just trying to give you a little bit of understanding. Remember you talking about all that you got back in the day. It's hard for young men to get laid these days because every female is delusional, think they deserve a millionaire, pro, or athlete. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll say this with that sentence. I had a guy tell me, I don't really go to clubs. I ain't been to a club. I couldn't tell you, but I don't even go to old people club. That ain't really. I mean, in my 30s, but I don't know. But a guy was saying that you can't even ask girls to dance because girls dance with each other. That's hard for me to imagine. And slow dancing does not exist anymore. It does not exist. I mean, maybe some of the older clubs where it's just older people, like 25 above or 30 above, whichever way the older people, they'll play slow dancing music. But I don't think any of my children can slow dance. And so it's just not that cultural thing anymore. So, yeah, a lot of women are delusional. That's why the abortion ban was put into effect, because the rallies the ones that's getting the abortions. Now birth rates are low all across the board, but there's lower than ours. I don't believe that. Melanated people's birth rates, that's a lie. That's propaganda there. Our birth rates ain't low. It's a lot of darkies out there, and don't talk about the brown darkies. They still got big families. Now, they've talked us. But I've got a cousin that's, how old is Tiffany now? Tiffany's got to be in her mid-30s. She's got 5 children in her mid-30s. So there's Rachel that lived across the street from me, had 4 children. So I still know a lot of melanated people still have a lot of children. I do not know, as I said, when I grew up, I knew a European family. It was 20 children. They lived around the corner from me. Matter of fact, it was so many children where generations of children lived together. I remember I went like the middle children, but it was like 3 different sets of children had lived in the house at different times. They had, I think at one time when I went to school with some of these children, and can you imagine having 20 children? And they all went to Catholic school. They didn't transfer until my generation of children of that family. My generation was the last generation. But they had older brothers, like I think 20 years older. Same mom, same dad. And they had brothers 20 some years older than them. And they were going to Catholic church. So the education was paid for, but once they got in high school, the one I graduated with, the sister older than me, the brother younger than me, they went to regular high school. But they had 20 children too. But yeah, that's definitely why abortion. That's why women are survivalists, because they was here first. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, man, weird times indeed. Indeed, weird times. What do you think about the Asian hate crime narrative, trying to make it look like we are the main ones attacking them? Oh yeah, that was put out before. That was a psyop that they put out before. And they won't do an anti-lynching brothers and sisters. They won't. They've never wanted to do that because they've always wanted the terrorism of it. That's why it was allowed after Reconstruction to use as a terrorism up until the last lynching was technically in 1980. TBS or TNT, one of them, or CNN, or one of them did that case. They did the Atlanta murders, and then they did that case. If y'all remember, last summer they showed that, because I remember the boy got hung in his yard in Mississippi, and the guy got convicted. But they've always wanted to use that as terrorism. So there weren't a lot of people lynched. I mean, the numbers are there, but it was always used as, and then they don't tell you all the Italians that was lynched, all the Asians that was lynched. It wasn't just us, but that's all they push, and that's all the cards you see. You can find a lot of Jewish faith people where they got lynched, and you can find Italians if you look for the stuff. But they only put it was just us. But no, Jewish faith people and Italians, especially Italians, when Italians tried to go down south, Jewish faith people too. Stuff was happening. They was going after them, using them as a scapegoat. But the numbers were used more for terrorism than real murdering numbers. Not to say they weren't murderous people down there. Very murderous. Because as I said before, what they did is they took the lowest class. The poor white trash was the lowest class of people in the South. They were the least skilled. This is why in Reconstruction, they created unions to help these unskilled people. Because at the end of the Civil War, 99% of skilled labor in the South was melanated people. So skilled labor does not mean slavery. That's not skilled labor. Skilled labor. The slave narrative tells you that everybody worked in the fields. But if you read the book, 12 Men a Slave, you see he was quite an excellent carpenter, but he was free. But 12 Years a Slave has a lot of gems in it, because again, why would they need to go steal people from the North? But it's telling you this is how they always did it. They always took people off the East Coast. And then as the European moved further, they started slaving. When you know, they had the sellout tribes. The Cherokee are probably the most sellout of of the tribes that live today, and why the Cherokee are recognized by them. They're the most sellouts. They have fought for these British people from the beginning. Now, I do have some Cherokee ancestry. My great grandmother's brother did get money from, I'm thinking, probably the Cherokee. But if you look at them historically, they started fighting with the South. The Cherokee started fighting with the South, and then they later switched. But they've always been on the side of the British. So teaching some of these histories has nothing to do with shaming. It has everything to do with these are the facts of the conquerors. If Black Panther did anything, again, it's calling them the conquerors, or calling them the invaders and all that. Because the American history just wants to make you feel good. Thanksgiving, kumbaya, Thanksgiving, and it was never like that. That's never been American history. Remember when they tried to get in their schools, and now they ask these people that was teenagers in the 50s that's behind these sisters wanting to spit on them and cussing and just the ugly, distorted face of hate. Then they talk to them now. Well, you know, that's the way we were raised. But if you really look at the point of why poor white trash had to go to the tactics, is they knew that it wouldn't take melanated people very long to overcome them again. So this is the murderous acts why it had to be kept up until pretty right now. And this is all the fake police killings and all that is still the same type of terrorism. Because again, you don't have to overthrow the whole country. No, you just want to take your area. So you don't need to take it all over. You just want to take your area over. And that can be done with finance, politics, I mean, gangs. Remember in New Jack City, they controlled the whole building. That was done by the Collins brothers. The real story was done by the Collins brothers in real life. That's all you want to show is you can just control that area. You don't care about the country. Control your area. Make your area better for you and your people. If you got any real juice. And I can go into the stores. You know, you have political power. The stores that come in, and who's going to benefit? I mean, I told the story years ago. If reparations was given and niggas was giving checks, okay, all these businesses, overnight businesses, is going to come near where melanated people live. To gold, more Jordan stores, more cheap, junky jewelry. What's looked at as luxury cars. I mean, they know how to trick people. And it wouldn't be generational wealth. It would only be wealth for the people that got the money. Because majority of people would not know how to turn that into generational wealth. It would be the thing of just buy. And as we know, you know, in the stock market, you're going to see that jump. But again, longevity, you're going to see the dive. Here's a new word for you guys. This is a financial word. It's called pessimistic disbelief. Pessimistic disbelief. And what pessimistic disbelief is, it's a term that's really applied to stocks. And even if, how did he put it? He said, it's hard to believe in the stock market. And as I showed the Kramer guy that's on MSNBC, he said it right on his show. You can, and I don't know if it's on this channel or it's on my other channel, but I want to say it's on this channel where Kramer says it looks like the stock market is fake. But that's part of pessimistic disbelief. And what it means is that the stocks do eventually come up, but we don't believe that they would come up. But they're saying historically they do go, you know, ebbs and flows. But the pessimistic disbelief means that you already think it's fake and you don't really believe that it's going to go up. And that's, it's okay. It's a term why people aren't investing in certain stocks and following this bear market that we are in. Because right now they're trying to tell you that everything's going back up and we're not going into recession. The market, these talking heads are trying to tell you we're not going into recession. So, but yeah, that's why a lot of people aren't investing because of that. And I said this the other day, I'm going to repeat this. You know that each taxpayer is responsible for $230,000 in debt. But in reality, that is taxpayer. But each person is physically responsible. So if you're a taxpayer and on top of just being in the country, you are responsible for $300,000. Each person is responsible for $300,000 of debt, basically. And they just passed this other bill that's supposedly going to make the medicines go down, but it's a lot of pork money in it. But that's why they call you debt. And that's why we have the mourning, the debt. We are a debtor society. They want you, like people had a conversation today. Do you know to have good credit, a lot of times you have to take on more debt. To get good credit, you have to take on more debt. And we're in a system is the more debt you take on, a lot of times the better credit you have. Because you're showing that you're taking and paying all this debt on time. But that's how it works. It's not that if you don't have any debt, but you have a good job, they'll use that against you. As I said, my stepfather, they used it against him. Part of his perks for working, being an engineer, GM for 35, 36 years. But from day one, when he transferred being an engineer, because I think he went in as personnel and got a lot of brothers in General Motors in Kalamazoo. A lot of brothers. He got his father and my mother's father, his brother, cousins, friends of mine. But then when he became an engineer, part of being an engineer is you got a new car every year. For 35 years, he got a new car every year. However, when it was time for them to buy a house and to show car payments, that he did usually try and explain to them, I don't have a history of car payments because I get a free car every year. Then eventually, as my mother worked more, they end up having 2 cars. And so he still, even though he was given a car, he was still given an employee discount working for General Motors. I found something interesting that I've never heard before in one of my books. It says, my last name, Macon, means table man in Spanish and French. Now, French, my understanding that Macon means maison, well, actually the colon's over it, M-O colon's over it, S-O-N. Remember, it's a wine, Masson wine. It's supposed to be the last name of my name. But this says in Spanish, I never heard that my last name means table man. Never heard that before. So that was something I came across. So, but yeah, that's some of the little things. What's happening? The Carters, the Chamber Brothers had the real version. They also wrote the Crack Commandments. Well, that took them down too. MIB is back getting sloppy with their script. Pictures just lobbing it in there. Yeah, they've been doing that. What do you think about the? Yeah. Oh, so yeah, it ain't us messing with them. It ain't us messing with the Asians. They did that little. It was like 3 or 4 people got bothered, and they passed a whole crime bill, giving them money, giving their programs money. So that was just helping for the Asians that voted for Biden. They create something. So all the Asians that helped Biden, this is his repayment. Just like, look at how Biden didn't give the melanated people anything. He gave a girl to say a poem. You know, there's a book about that girl who wrote a poem. She said a poem during the inauguration. And then he gave you Juneteenth, a fake slave holiday that has no reality and basis of what happened. They made it all up. And Turtle Gang, I don't care what you said. I'm with Brother Dave. They made up that shit of Turner, and they made up that shit of Harriet Tubman. Made that shit up. Tasha breaks a lot of that down. She don't say it was no Harriet Tubman, but there were actually caves used. There were a lot of different ways to move people around. But again, people could freely move around. People could freely move around. So it sounds good. Put the hounds on people. People could freely move around. Make these slave movies. At first, it was a slave book, Mandingo, Drum. And then Mandingo and Drum was both turned into movies. And now we got Dajingo. You see the Jingo, Mandingo. You see that? The same thing. Mandingo, Dajingo. You see that? Same kind of stories. Why don't they want to show movies about Reconstruction? The only movie you can see about Reconstruction is Muhammad. No. Let me take that back. Ali played a character from South Carolina and shows a little bit of the war because it was a war. It was a war, and the poor white trash won the war. Armed by the government. That's what happened. Reconstruction was a whole nother war. It was against the melanated people that were their own sheriffs, own militia groups, and from the very outset, they tried to stronger armed these poor white trash groups because they did not like these counties having melanated sheriffs, and any of these towns, the constables was melanated in the counties. So they went to war against that. And a lot of the bankers and finance people backed them and bought them weapons. That's part of history. Wayne named his Carter album series because of New Jack, who was inspired by the Chamber Brothers, and that's being his last home. Also, Biggie sang 10 Crack Commandments came from the Chamber Brothers. Did you know that the dude who put together New Jack City spent like a year in Detroit? Did you know that? He spent a year in Detroit studying the Chambers brothers. That Asian crime bill, that's one of the biggest heists in modern history. Well, that was giving them no money, though. That was his way of paying them back for helping them get voted. So I was telling you, you know what? It's funny. And this is how long I've been going on? Wow, hour already. Okay, this is how backwards we are. I saw a nigga one of my teammates in college. This motherfucker's talking about against abortion. I'm like, dude, we in our 60s. You have 2 grown children. What's abortion got to do with you? What does abortion mean to me? Why do you care about abortion? Why do you care about what a young girl or a young girl can do? I mean, that is the brainwashing that we have in this country. That's why one thing I talk shit to him. He's talking about that. He's talking shit about Herschel Walker. This is a melanated man downing this other melanated man to help a European. I know y'all. Some of y'all say, "Well, Stacey Abrams," but he say he would rather have a European in there rather than Herschel. That is how blind some people are. I told him, I was like, some of y'all in Atlanta ain't got no balls. Y'all let all the female judges in one county? What is you dudes doing down there? What is men doing down there? You letting all these female judges, and you going through these female judges that, you got to have a job if you want to be with me. With this raised on the man hate. It's sometimes it's such man hate that, they'd rather be with another woman than the man because they hate the man so much. And raised on that man hate. So, yeah, Lorenzo, he was there for about a year. It's a documentary that he talks about. But he was there for about a year. He was in Detroit for about a year. He saw the original building. The original building's still up. Al Prophet, I think in his series, he shows the original Carter, the original building that the Chamber brothers used. And they was all agents. All them dudes was agents. All of them. Al Prophet show all them agents. All of them agents. All the big time dope dealers was helped. Not just Freeway Ricky Ross. He was the template. Freeway Ricky Ross was the template. And they used that template all across the country. They put 1 or 2 people in charge and let them. See, this is what they want you to do. They wanted you to idolize the dope dealer. They wanted you to idolize the dope dealer. So they back certain dope dealers that they let wear a lot more jewelry and get a lot more cars. They let this happen. They let this happen. It was allowed. So it was propaganda. It was propaganda. And I've sold all kind of dope. I've sold it all. I've sold it all. I have robbed people of dope. So I wasn't above that. I think Brother Nick said he never robbed anybody, but you was in the military. So, and you was in combat. So kind of you did. You kind of did. You was kind of robbing them people that you was over there in their rights. They had rights. Wasn't just your point of view. They had a point of view too. And I know you can say your point of view was protect your ass, which I agree. But you was helping Uncle Sam kind of rob them. Especially in Iraq and Afghanistan. We know what that war was about. That war was about heroin. They wanted Afghanistan because of heroin. And as soon as we've been in Afghanistan, what is raised in America? The heroin. Even before the fake heroin rose up. So you kind of did rob people, but just in a different way. Because when you work for Uncle Imbecile, he's robbing people. That's their history. That's the history of the British. The British have robbed and pillaged and raped everywhere they went. And, when you fight in the military or the government, you are part of the British. Because we still back the British. Why do you think we went to World War I and World War II? We went to their aid. And Zach breaks down very beautiful. In World War I, people didn't care. People were siding with the Germans in World War I. Most Americans in 14, 15 16 during the war did not care because they had nothing to do with most. There was a lot of Germans here. They did not care. And then we had the Jewish faith propaganda machine. Stop putting out the propaganda, making people hate the Germans all of a sudden. When that wasn't the attitude. The attitude was, we're going to stay out of this war. And even Woodrow Wilson said, he ran on, we're going to not go into war. So when you fight in the American military, you're actually fighting for Queen Elizabeth. Now, you should be, any of y'all been in the military should be smart enough to know that by now. That y'all real commander-in-chief was Queen Elizabeth. And I know y'all ran into British troops. In y'all career, y'all ran into British troops. Maneuvers, y'all ran into British troops. But that's your real commander-in-chief. It ain't the president. It is that. Oh, let me tell y'all, when I played pickleball today, I saw a non-human again. Can't tell you what he was, but I saw his eyes. Oh, my goodness. He changed them back, but for a minute there, it looked like he had a mask on. I mean, it really looked like the eyes was a mask. Because this guy just playing pickleball, and I just caught him one time. And, yeah, he must have not been concentrating, but it was nothing there. I mean, it was literally nothing there. I caught an angle where it was like, you know how masks look on a person's face? I caught that. Well, when I saw his eyes, again, I wasn't just staring at him like, watching him on the pickleball court. I was just kind of watching them play as I'm playing. It's lows where people mess up. You start serving. I just kind of glanced over. I was like, damn. It wasn't that it wasn't eyes. It was like some glowing shit in there. It was some glowing shit. It wasn't eyes. It was some glowing shit. So it wasn't blank, but it was some glowing shit in there. Where, like, if you look at me from the side, you're still going to see this. Like, if you look at me from the side, you're still going to see this. It was none of really this. It was none of this in there. It was something glowing in there. Now, later I looked over again, and it was different. Now, don't tell me it was the night and the clouds. It wasn't none of that. He changed it back later. Because when I first saw him, he was looking that way. Then when I caught him, I was like, wow. He probably didn't even know I caught him. Because there's a minute where he had, like, I don't know, he looked frustrated. And I caught him where it was just red glows in his eyes. Like red little slits, almost like snake eyes almost. It was like just little, I don't know, I say more glowing in the eyes than slits. But maybe slits is easier to understand. But I didn't want to forget that. So they're here. And they don't hide anymore. Years ago, they would kind of move slow. Not anymore. They don't move slow anymore. They move. They just move. So. Bloods and Crips are agents too. Something about these melanated full beard Negroes, that's shaft. Bloods and Crips are agents too. One of my best videos I did is OG Mac, and how OG Mac, was an FBI agent that took the Bloods to New York. My son said, check this out. I don't even know if Nick knows this. My son said Bloods is all in Detroit. Bloods ain't never been in Detroit. Never. He said now he just went to a concert there a couple weeks ago to see somebody. He said he's seeing Bloods in Detroit. Bloods have never been in Detroit. Ain't no Bloods in Chicago. You think you seeing Bloods and Crips in Chicago? Any of y'all out there? You think you seeing that shit in Chicago? Let somebody go blooding up in Chicago, see what happened to him. Let him go on the west side or the south side and talking all that blood shit in Chicago. See what happened to them. They'll be found outside of Chicago dead. They never made a footway in Chicago. They say that they joined, but they ain't never been the main thing like they did up in New York. So it's interesting that because Detroit was, you had YBI and all the cats end up dead or going. But a lot of them gangs, gangs was from the 80s and 90s, older gangs. So, yeah. Well, that's about all I got tonight. Don't really have any more. I think hour and 20 minutes is long enough. Football season is starting back, so I might just do a day of just going over the games and stuff, point spreads. Might add that if any guys want to join. I've never been big into fantasy. Been thinking about going into that. So if any of you guys are interested in that, we probably could toss that around. So Yeah, but I'm bummed. I don't think my headset works. So maybe I should have went with it. Maybe I'll test it tomorrow, but it didn't look like it worked. So we'll try it. But y'all, if you want to hear more, go watch one of my old videos. At the end of all the videos, yeah, they got their own thing. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. All the people ain't worried about us anymore. They used to be, but they ain't worried about us anymore. They don't hide. They don't hide. They ain't in the fringes. Again, I would see their energy and the people could tell and they would kind of tense up. Not anymore. Like, so what? It's like, so what? So, and it's really like that. It's like, so what? So, but I think that's all I got, guys. So, this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. I'm your guy, Big Pontiac. Some of y'all know me as A Wind. I take all that. So I should be here. It's Friday, right? It's Friday. Should be here tomorrow. Yeah, Bloods are at Detroit. Chicago's more GDs and VLs. Thanks to Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford, both born in Mississippi. Yeah, Larry Hoover. PNF proved that Larry Hoover was an agent. PNF proved that Larry Hoover was an agent. PNF's dad was probably killed by the FBI. So Larry Hoover could step in because PNF's father was probably the one who was really going to step in the position that Larry Hoover later took. Yeah, but Larry Hoover, you say Mississippi? I thought that Larry Hoover was from Alabama though, but you could be right. I thought, but yeah, Cat's not from there. Absolutely not from there. But well, it was always Stone Rangers though. But Chicago, going back to Capone times, there was black gangs since Capone times. You just hear about the mafia, but you don't hear about the black gangs that existed in Chicago. You hear more about the black gangs like Madam, whatever her name is. They did the one movie about. You hear about her, but you don't really hear about the black gangs that existed and hustled when Capone. And those names is out there. Let's say it'd be, well, uh, I should look up some of the names. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to look up some of them old gangster names back then. That was brothers and sisters, but it was always. And then you had the Blackstone Rangers, and I said Blackstone Rangers were coming into town 200 cars deep. Like if they had issues with people, they'd come in your town 200 cars deep, and they'd shoot at anybody. 200 cars deep would outdo some of the local police. Local police didn't have that many cars. I mean, they'd literally come into towns and shut people down. So they've always existed, and that's all Hoover and them did, and Jeff Ford. But Ford took a better role though, because Ford, the Vice Lords, was actually after the Panthers. The Vice Lords went into Gary, and the Vice Lords was actually a civic group. The Vice Lords was getting government grants. As I was saying, Fred Hampton, why he was a Black Panther, saying, the pigs, they was getting government grants. Huey Newton, they was getting government grants. Lane Brown's book, you read between the lines, you see they were still getting government grants. But we know that Fred Hampton was getting government grants because a guy comes to Fred Hampton in one of the few films of him and says, he's like, what do you want the money for? And the guy says he wants, they want to start a credit union. Fred says a bank. Well, same thing, credit union, bank. And then Fred says the educational process of, I think what Fred really meant was the educational process of the people coming in to work for the bank. I mean, he kind of over politicized. But where he getting his money from? How was Panther getting money to write grants? If you understand. So they were writing grants and getting this money. But the Vice Lords, the same thing. And there's a lot of propaganda against them. And then that's where it turned it to later, what you see today. But yeah, as I've said before, I had a weed dude in Gary. And, we just wouldn't wear well, we wore baseball hats, but they'd be straight. You didn't have to, and it was just funny, just going blocks. Well, going to Gary into the city, wearing a hat one way or another could get you in a lot of trouble. So it's always, as the LA people call people out of the gang squares, but the people had the hat straight. You didn't want to cock one way or another. And I had a bad habit because I would always wear hats kind of cocked just because, I don't know, I kind of picked that up some of my teammates from DC, the way they used to wear hats. So I kind of picked that up. When we would go to Gary in the 80s or late 80s, it would still be in the 90s, it'd still be, you just didn't wear, you wear your hat straight. And then certain colors, which was so messed up too. So and you didn't want to wear the Georgetown hat. It was like a couple of college hats you didn't want to wear. So, but yeah, Black Disciples, yeah, Peace Stones, yeah, the Peace Stones, yeah, come from Stony Island. You know, them brothers, the gang off of Stony Island. Yeah, I knew where they killed a dude. They killed one guy, and then they shot my friend in the head. He had beat some Black Stones in basketball, and this guy was like all state as a sophomore, and he was just playing a game and played some Peace Stone Rangers, and they beat the guys, and they walked from the court. They walked to the L's, and they was waiting for the L to come, and both of them, the guys they played basketball with, shot them both in the head. Petey survived. Yeah, his name was Petey. I forgot that it was his name. Because his dad sold, my brother, I don't even know if my brother would remember this, but their dad sold pant pressers, you know, straight up and down pant pressers where you put your pant in there and your pants in there and they press your pants. But that was Petey's dad. And Petey was shot in the head. He survived, but it was like he got shot waiting for the L in Chicago over a basketball game. He was like 15, 16. Yeah, his friend got killed. He killed his friend, but he survived. They were both like all-state 10th grade basketball players that summer, and had family there, and just rode the L to go play basketball, and got killed. Well, the one other young man got killed. So they wasn't all glorified. There's no reason to kill that young man. So, yeah. Well, this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. I've been your guy, Big Pontiac. Till we meet again, definitely say less.